Hey everybody, welcome to RP Geography. Um, I haven't done any major videos yet about the geography type stuff that I do want to cover, but I am going to run a few games, a few one-shots, and it's all based in my setting, which is called Donhanda. That's the large worldwide scale. That's what they would refer to the world itself as, and the subsetting is called Bresia. And I want to give everyone a primer here because I've been playing with a lot of different people because I'm kind of play testing the whole setting. So I kind of want to get as many people's feedback as possible. And the difficulty with that has been explaining to so many people kind of the basic concept. Because even though the details have changed a bit and they might still change a little, the basic concept, and I think you'll see what that is, has pretty much remained since the beginning. So what I actually first wanted to do was I wanted to give a short story which kind of explains who the Bressians are, where they came from, and how they got here. So this is called the story of three brothers. The sun burst over the western-facing cliff. Sunlight suddenly assaults the face of a man who's sitting on a broad but shallow hill. His name is Laurel, and he is the oldest of the siblings that are here. He sits out as the sun comes up and sighs. He stands, putting some weight on the tall spear with the bronze head, and starts to walk his way towards the edge. His people come from a land that used to be just out there, as he looked. Lalaru was a dense forest and a welcoming place to his people, who have no stories of a time where they lived anywhere but there. But now as he looks out, he sees only ocean. His people were lucky, and they fled. They were an easterly tribe, and it was easiest for them to escape the rising seas. But there were others that he knew, whose bodies were dancing in the waves. And as he stands there, he almost doesn't hear the crinkle of drying leaves and dead grass behind him. He turns to see his brother and his sister. Miles, his youngest brother, was tall and built. He also carried a spear and also a round shield made from hide. And he started to approach, and his sister lagged behind. Valoria was a patient woman. She could wait, and she would wait for him to approach. So these three standing here, some of the last of their people, they know that they'll never go back home, and they've heard only stories of terror about what is to lie to the east of them. Some of their people are talking about staying here with these kindly people that they met, these small, slight people who call themselves gnomes. They've been hospitable and kind, it's true, and some of their people should stay. It would be a good home for them. But they couldn't all remain here. They would have to leave. They had heard talks from some clans of going south, but that would require ships, boats. They were uncomfortable with that proposition. There was talk of climbing through the mountains and heading north, but too many would lose their lives. So they had settled on east through the Foxden Forest. That's what these gnomes called it, anyway. They said there were creatures there called elves. They said to be cautious. They were prone to flights of fancy and could change their mind about being kind in an instant. And they wouldn't always decide to be kind in the first place. So the siblings discussed, the siblings debated, but they decided that they would go. And that's the story of the three siblings. That is the beginning of the Bresian. So this whole setting takes place in what I call the Age of Kings, which essentially spans from the Bronze Age to the middle of the Iron Age, in a techno sort of description way. And this is pre the Age of Kings. This is during the age before that. This is called the Age of Aurealis. And basically, when the humans begin this trek, that will basically start the Age of Kings in terms of dating. So I like to run stories in the Bronze Age right now. That's what I've been doing. I find it fun, and I like to keep notes. So I kind of letting these early sessions inform my later sessions in the Iron Age. I will eventually have a slight take on the items and the weapons, factoring in things that would be more available in the Bronze Age: bronze weapons, bronze armor. I've seen some stats that I like for those, and I would like to incorporate those. But right now I'm using basic player handbook stuff. And so what I really wanted to cover here was like what's going on in this subsetting of Bresia, and where did that story lead to. So basically that story, and the Cliff Notes version, is they do go through the Foxden Forest, and the elves are not particularly kind to them. The elves and the gnomes worship the Tuatha Danann, who are the sort of high-level fae in this world. They're the highest level fae. So they are fae. Sprites, dryads, they're all fae as well, but they're just much lower on the food chain, so to speak. The fae are not necessarily like a goodly set of gods. They have their own ins and outs. They have their own rivalries and so on. So the humans just sort of find themselves sort of in the middle of that. And this is sort of historical context. I don't plan to run any games here, but some groups of elves that were serving certain members of the Tuatha Danann were kind, others were not. And this leads to friction in the long term. That's what's important, really, is just that elves and humans don't always not get along. They don't always get along. Basically, the players can decide to play any side of those coins that they like. I like to leave that up to the players. But that's the history there. That's why there's some conflict. Once they did make it through the Foxden Forest, they made it to what is Bresia. That is the subsetting. And Bresia, geographically, is pretty simple. It's basically based on Northern Europe geography, Northern European geography, specifically the British Isles. So the Malaysian Highlands, founded by Miles, that youngest brother, is kind of a rocky highland area. Once everybody's settled in, starting in the Bronze Age and on, we're looking at pastoral, shepherding, small farms surrounding a rath, sod-topped homes, stone walls, pretty standard visually. And I stress visually because I don't like to really base cultures in my world on one specific culture. So since this whole area is kind of loosely based on the British Isles, they're all kind of loosely based on all the different groups of people from the British Isles, or my take on them as a fantasy vehicle. Basically, the Highlanders are they're mysterious. They're like the as you go further down the timeline, they're the most likely to hold on to the older ways. They're a bit more independent, and I'm sure